I'm guessing most of you by this point have watched the new Emerald Dream Seed cinematic with Tyrande and Malfurion, and I gotta say, finally, after all this time, the lore is actually getting quite spicy. While still a tad bit unclear, finally things are actually happening, and turns out many of our speculations were actually right. The Night Elves are planting a new world tree in the Emerald Dream, implying that it will return to Azeroth after a certain amount of time. However, what is even more interesting is that there are brand new old god whispers in Dragonflight about corrupting it and roots growing, and this is where the plot really thickens. So what is all this information? What are the old god whispers, and what will be happening in Dragonflight and after? Just a quick before we get into the video, I'd like to show you guys this video sponsored, the Ridge Wallet. If you guys are using a really bulky wallet, check out Ridge. I've been using it for 2 years. It is literally the only wallet that I've used. Now, additionally, they started creating key keys as well, and it really matches the wallet at the same time. Now, best of all, until December 22nd, if you use my link in the description, you can get up to 40% off. So it's never really been a better time to get your Ridge Wallet. Check out my link in the description below and use code DORON. Turns out a lot of the speculations were actually right all the way back from the Shadowlands, even months before the Dragonflight was announced. However, I can't say it was really all that hard to speculate. It wasn't like a giga brain speculation, as the Night Elves have been getting wrecked like for half a decade, and now they were finally promised renewal. Then all the souls sacrificed themselves in the Shadowlands. We got a seed. Seed is generally something that is used to plant inside the ground. At the same time, Night Elves are refugees. They no longer have their tree and their capital, so naturally it was easy to connect 2 and 2, and that a tree should be planted with a new seed. However, now we got the official cinematic and the official confirmation, so this is no longer my crazy speculations. Malfurion and Tyrande are literally going with the Green Dragonflight, and they're planting the seed to grow inside the Emerald Dream. Tyrande says the future for the Kaldrai takes root here, but now, even more interestingly, we get the most important line. Time will come when it must leave the cradle of the dream and take its place in our world. Now, this is something else, and definitely something we didn't really expect. A lot of us were thinking they would magically just enhance the seed, plant it somewhere to speed up the growth so it would be near instant, but by the looks of it, they're kind of doing something similar. However, planting the tree inside the dream for it to sprout, and then in some way, some scenario, it has to be teleported into Azeroth as probably a new Teldrassil. This, in my opinion, is a really interesting scenario because we never had actually seen something as crazy as this. However, when you think about it, this is after all a seed empowered by Outer Build, a bunch of souls are infused within it, and the Green Dragonflight is also empowering it, so it really wouldn't be all that hard to happen. I mean, this is not just a regular seed, but practically how this is going to work is going to be a lot different story. Like, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is that they're literally just going to teleport the whole tree into Kalimdor just out of the sky, which is gonna seem at least a little bit ridiculous. However, the more likely scenario, in my opinion, is some sort of a portal, but not like your regular, like a mage portal, but like a barrier between the material plane and the Emerald Dream is going to break somehow, and through that rift, a new Teldrassil would grow. Honestly, this seems a lot more likely, and this actually makes a lot of sense. If you know about the lore of the world trees, you know that they're not just massive ancient trees where the Night Elves live, but instead they are like literally connected, sort of like the blood vessels into the Emerald Dream itself. So there's some crazy like trans-dimensional stuff going on. This is literally how the old gods can manage to corrupt the dream in the past, create a nightmare and all the chaos they did, because the trees were like an entry point into this mysterious realm from Azeroth, and they decided to use it. Now, what we have on the Dragon Isles could literally be the perfect scenario, because as you may remember, there has been a popular theory that the new Teldrassil will be planted off to the side of the Oneran Plains, where there is like a hole in this weird set of islands that you literally cannot see on the Oneran Zone map, but it is on the overall Dragon Isles map, so there's something definitely going to happen there. This is super close to the ancient Green Dragonflight lands, and most importantly, in these ancient Green Dragon lands, there is a portal into the Emerald Dream, and it is said to be like the portal, the proto-portal into the Emerald Dream, like one of the most ancient and most important gateways, and it is literally right next to this sort of hole on the map. So this means that this land is special, and that there is just some inherent bond between the two realms that coalesce in this place, meaning the teleportation of a whole new world tree would be super relevant in this exact zone. So it is a super legit theory that the new Night Elven lands might just be on the Dragon Isles, and that this story will develop throughout the expansion and maybe after Dragonflight. As you might have also seen from the new cinematics and the old data mine information, Malfurion literally sacrificed himself for Yrzera to return, so the Great Dragonflight really owes a serious favor to the Night Elven people. Although, as we may have learned, Malfurion might not actually be dead, like he's not actually gone. It might be more of like a temporary thing where he will swap places, he will learn things in other builds that will later down the line be relevant in a future storyline because he will have this unique knowledge. Now, all of this, there's all this new information, the cinematics that you can probably see in the theories, but now we have the most juicy and interesting bit of information, and that is as that it looks like the Night Elves once again seem to have been played for a fool, and they might have just planted this tree right into the old god hands or old god tentacles, which means that we might be the ones that will have to save the Night Elven future in our very near future, and now this time the times will be super dire. If you guys played through the Dragon Isles, you might have done the scenario where you travel back in time with Chromie and then you go to the very early days of the establishment of the Black Empire. In fact, so early that the Elemental Lords are still resisting the Void Invasion. Now, in there, you have all these old god guys just having a whisper party as they literally just blast negativity into your ears, and they say a brand new line, something super interesting. Deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. Now, I know what you may be thinking, this is like 200,000 years ago, they're not talking about this sea, this is all in the past, but keep in mind, the old gods are just clever bastards and they work through various planes as we have seen with the Emerald Dream and the various timelines, so they're really not one-dimensional. Additionally, time travel in World of Warcraft is weird, so it's not like you're just observing what happened as a tourist, like you're visiting a memory. Sometimes, like while it is the past, it also becomes the reality, as we can see with the Caverns of Time, with Worlds of Draenor, and the past and the present and the future really do kind of go hand in hand together, they kind of intermix, and it's just really weird. So, by the looks of it, the Night Elves may be getting screwed once again. Why Tyrande would just blindly allow this to happen does seem a tad bit stupid, seeing that the Emerald Dream really is not the impenetrable fortress that he once believed, as the Nightmare invaded it a bunch of times. So my theory is that where the seed is starting to grow is inside an old god prison, where they will be able to corrupt it 100%. This could be someone like Yoxron, or that fifth old god that we had previously theorized about that could be right under the Dragon Isles. Why I think this is relevant and more than just a simple observation or whisper is because we have the Primalists that are literally trying to access the Emerald Dream, which makes you wonder why they would wanna go inside the Emerald Dream out of all the places. There is a theory that the Primalists, while being all about pure elemental magic, may actually be scheming with the old gods against the Titan Order, as both of them have been wronged by the Titans, and despite being kinda natural enemies, they do have a common foe, and also the Elementals worked with the old gods at some point in the past. Well, more like we were enslaved than worked, but yeah, they kind of work together. They do have a history. As you may know, there was the big data mine information where 10.1 might have something to do with underground, and that could be an entire patch. Now, check out this possible scenario. So, the new Teldrassil that is connected to the Dream in Azeroth starts growing roots into the Dragon Isles below the ground, and now it is a perfect entry point for the old gods, not only to corrupt Azeroth, but also to get inside the Dream and possibly Ardenweald as well. We could have a really serious problem on our hands, seeing that Tyrande realizes that this was literally like the last chance for the Night Elves to ever get back on their feet. We just have to start fighting like hell to stop this from happening, because if the seed is lost and the Dream, we lost Malfurion, the Night Elves never get the city back, and all those souls that sacrifice themselves for a wrong purpose once again, so yeah, they were played 2 times in like a few years. Furthermore, we get a serious void incursion that could overtake the entire Dream and really mess up the balance of the entire universe as a whole. Of course, all of this could be a huge stretch, but at this point in time, we do have concrete information that the tree is like legit planted and is supposed to go from the Dream into Azeroth at some point in time. And in the background, we have the old god whispers about how when the roots get deep enough, they will welcome their embrace. I'd say you guys can really do with that information as you will. Thank you for watching. Check out all the information about the old god presence on the Dragon Isles by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.